What do Jeff Bezos, Sergey Brin, Larry Page, Beyonce, and Prince William have in common? Not just fame or fortune, but a childhood secret most billionaires quietly share. It is not private schools that cost $50,000 a year. The real advantage is a century-old method you can use at home for free, but almost no one talks about it. Why would the world's most powerful families keep this blueprint hidden in plain sight? And what happens when you finally see how it works? The truth starts here. Maria Montessori was born in Italy in 1870, at a time when women were rarely seen in universities, let alone medical schools. By 1896, she had become one of Italy's first female doctors, earning her degree against fierce resistance from faculty and society alike. Her first assignment was not in a prestigious hospital, but in overcrowded institutions for children labeled uneducable. Instead of accepting the prevailing wisdom, Montessori watched closely. She noticed that these children were not broken, they were simply ignored, given nothing to touch or explore. She began bringing in simple objects, wooden blocks, fabrics, everyday items. The children, once dismissed as hopeless, began to change. They learned to dress themselves, pour water, and sort shapes. Within months, many passed state reading exams, sometimes outscoring normal students. This was real observable change. In 1907, Montessori opened the Casa dei Bambini in the slums of Rome. Here, 50 children from poor families were given child-sized tables, hands-on materials, and the most radical of all was freedom to choose their own work. Montessori kept careful records, observing as children who had been restless and unruly transformed into focused, independent learners. By the end of that first year, these children were reading, writing, and solving problems at a level that shocked visiting educators. Newspapers called them miracle children. Montessori's conclusion was clear. Intelligence and potential were not gifts for the wealthy. They were unlocked by the right environment. The evidence was not in theory, but in the children themselves. 5 operating rules formed the backbone of what happened inside the Casa dei Bambini. First, the environment itself was prepared for children, not adults. Furniture was low to the ground, materials sat within easy reach, and everything could be handled without asking permission. This setup gave children real independence, no waiting for an adult to hand over a pencil or unlock a cupboard. Second, learning was designed to happen from within. Montessori called this auto-education. Materials were self-correcting. If a block did not fit, the child knew immediately. There was no need for a teacher to step in and say, "That is wrong." Children learned to trust their own observations and keep trying until they solved the puzzle themselves. Third, the method followed sensitive periods, windows of time when children are drawn to certain skills. At some ages, they craved order and routine. At others, language or sensory exploration took over. The classroom changed to match these natural drives, rather than forcing everyone through the same lesson at the same time. Fourth, ages were mixed. 3-year-olds worked alongside 6-year-olds. The older children modeled skills while the younger ones watched and imitated. This arrangement created a community where teaching and learning flowed in both directions, not just from adult to child. Finally, the day included long, uninterrupted work cycles. Children chose an activity and could stick with it for hours if they wished. There were no bells or forced transitions. Deep concentration became normal, not rare. These 5 rules were not just classroom quirks, they were the engine behind the unexpected transformations at Casa dei Bambini. In the world of innovation, a curious pattern stands out. When researchers at INSEAD and Brigham Young University surveyed more than 3,000 executives and interviewed 500 leading innovators, they noticed a cluster of high achievers with one thing in common: Montessori. The Wall Street Journal called it the Montessori Mafia. Among its ranks are Jeff Bezos, Larry Page, Sergey Brin, and Jimmy Wales. These are not just outliers, they represent a concentration that far exceeds Montessori's share of the population. This is not about branding or nostalgia. It is about the mechanics of how childhood experience translates into adult advantage. Montessori's core rules, choice, independence, self-correction, and collaboration map directly onto skills prized in the modern workplace. Executive function, the set of mental skills that includes working memory, flexible thinking, and self-control is the backbone of leadership and innovation. In a 6-year study, innovators who attended Montessori schools credited their ability to follow curiosity, think different, and act different to those early years of self-directed learning. Larry Page once explained that at Montessori he learned not to wait for permission. Jeff Bezos' mother recalled teachers having to physically move him because he was so absorbed in his chosen work. These habits of deep focus, questioning, and persistence do not fade with age. They compound. The data backs it up. Longitudinal studies show Montessori alumni report higher college completion and higher career satisfaction than their peers. In the workplace, Montessori graduates are overrepresented in creative and entrepreneurial roles, fields where initiative and independent thinking are essential. The advantage is not theoretical, it is measured in outcomes, in the clustering of innovators at the top, and in the language they use to describe their path. The so-called Montessori Mafia is not a secret society, it is a signal that the rules of early learning quietly shape the engines of adult achievement. A single corner of a living room can become a launch pad for independence. Start with shelves no higher than a child's chest. 18 to 24 inches is enough. Use crates, thrifted bookcases, or even sturdy boxes. On these shelves, place 6 to 8 trays or baskets, each holding a single activity, such as pouring beans, matching socks, or wiping a mirror. The materials do not need to be fancy. A glass pitcher from a dollar store, a handful of buttons, a rag for dusting, real objects scaled for small hands. Rotate activities every week or two to keep curiosity alive. Choice is the engine. Offer 2 acceptable options at a time. For example, do you want to wear the blue shirt or the red one? Would you like carrots or apples with lunch? This is not about unlimited freedom, but about building decision-making muscle. Each small choice strengthens executive function, the same skill that lets adults plan, pivot, and persist. When a child struggles, pause, wait, watch, say, "You are working hard on that," instead of rushing in. Let them try, fail, and try again. Struggle is not a problem to solve, it is a chance for confidence to grow, follow their obsessions, dinosaurs, trucks, bugs, lean in with books, museum visits, or homemade games. Interest is the most powerful teacher. Praise the process, not the outcome. Say, "You finished the puzzle after so many tries," rather than, "You are so smart." Protect a daily window of 1 to 2 hours where the child chooses what to do, uninterrupted. No timers, no forced transitions. This is where deep focus takes root. Everyday life is learning. Setting the table, washing fruit, sweeping crumbs, these are not chores, they are lessons in coordination, concentration, responsibility, and independence. The method is simple and the impact is lasting. No tuition bill required. 3 obstacles stand in the way of Montessori's wider adoption. The first is cost. Authentic Montessori classrooms require low student-to-teacher ratios, often 10 or 12 children per adult, which drives up expenses beyond what most public schools can afford. Specialized materials and teacher training add to the budget, making the model difficult to scale. The second barrier is measurement. Traditional education thrives on standardized test scores because they are easy to collect and compare. Montessori prioritizes skills like executive function and creativity, outcomes that rarely show up on state exams. Policymakers struggle to justify investments in things they cannot easily quantify. The third challenge comes from tradition. Schools are built to produce compliance and order. Montessori encourages independence and questioning. Critics argue that children need more structure and direct instruction, yet research consistently finds Montessori students match or surpass their peers academically, while gaining skills that tests do not measure. Maria Montessori didn't keep her discoveries locked away. In 1909, she published her first book, laying out every step, every principle for anyone to use. The method was never patented, and it was never hidden behind closed doors. Yet more than a century later, most families still believe Montessori is reserved for those who can pay private school tuition. The truth sits in plain sight, on library shelves, in free online guides, and in living rooms where parents quietly adapt the approach. From grassroots parent groups to a growing network of public Montessori programs, the method has spread far beyond its origins. The real advantage is not secrecy or cost. It is the myth that the advantage belongs only to the wealthy. The knowledge has always been available. The choice to use it is what matters. As automation reshapes the workforce, independent thinkers, not rote followers, set the pace. Montessori's core advantage isn't hidden, it's ignored. The real edge is raising minds that question, create, and adapt. In a world built by rules, the future belongs to those who learned how to break them early.